Welcome to DBGallery's PlusWeb webinar. What I'm going to do right now, I'm just going to have a quick look at what our agenda is going to look like over the next 45 minutes to an hour. Okay, so we're just going to look at who you would open your collection up to, okay, as well as we will take a look at just how PlusWeb works and what it is. Well, we'll go through some usage options. We'll take a look at what's new. Then we'll do some of the basics of, again, of more or less what it is all about. We'll go through some more advanced options, actually, such as user administration. And then we will look at some of our beta functionality, things that are coming up in the next few months, which we're actually pretty excited about, some great new features. And then to wrap it up, we will do a Q&A and potentially even get some feedback on what you thought of PlusWeb and where you would like to see it go. So with all that said, let's go back to the very beginning here. Okay. So why would you open up your collection to the web? Because a scenario for PlusWeb is you actually have DBGallery running on your systems, on your server and your clients, and you're using the DBGallery's desktop to manage your collection. And then you install PlusWeb, which is a web server plugin, which then opens up your collection to the internet. Okay. So you would do that. So some of our examples of our existing customers is opening up videos, photos, and PDF guides to sales staff across the globe. So they have sales staff in basically spread out by continent, and each continent sells specific products, and so their team of sales staff have access to products that are sold on those continents only. And another case, to keep another client uses DBGallery's PlusWeb to keep suppliers in the loop on new products and updated products, where suppliers come in from time to time based on an email prompt from the client that says, these are our new products, and you can have a look at them directly using PlusWeb in this case. Schools open it up to students and activities, to parents and volunteers. Moving and shipping companies open up their collection to very specific clients. In one case, we have a moving company in California that moves high-value crates from China to Mexico. And as those crates are moved from the factory to the trucks to the train to the boat, there are photos taken of the crates and their condition, and especially the gauges on those crates. So the client can log in and see those images nearly real time, because the client that logs in, they can see only the images that are associated with their shipments. And if they type in a shipment number, they will see images just for those shipments. Another example is field personnel using PlusWeb to upload at office, upload photos to office administrators, and the office administrators will then tag and make those images available to other people that are using DBGallery. Okay, so with that said, I'm going to move along here to our what is PlusWeb again. I just gave a brief overview earlier, but here essentially is what it is. So we have, for existing customers, you would have seen this before. This is our desktop application. And this is where you would quite frequently do, where you would add images, where you would tag the images, where you would move files and folders around. Okay? And so that is how you would typically manage your collection. then when you open it up to the web, what it looks like is this right here. Okay, so this is that same folder structure and the same images that you see back over here. I'm just going to do a refresh here. So you can see we have published, architecture, share, legal, and marketing. And that is the same as what we have over here. Okay? Now, inside of legal, there are 6 images. And you will see that there are 6 images here inside of legal. Okay? Now, if back here on the desktop side, if I take these boys working and move them over to the architecture folder. Okay. Now when we come back to the web, that photo is now in architecture. Okay. So you can see essentially what is happening is what is happening within inside of DBGallery's desktop is immediately reflected on the web. That is because essentially they are both using the same DBGallery database. Okay? So whether you have multiple clients, whether you and your colleagues are using DBGallery on the desktop or it's being used on the web, you're seeing the same thing. Okay? Now, in most cases, what is being viewable, what is viewable on the web for specific users is not the same as what you're going to see in the back end, because in the back end you're probably going to see a lot more than just this dadmin folder. You will see other users folders, whichever folders you might happen to have, how you may have them organized, and you may provide access only to a specific folder for this user. In this case, this user here just happens to be called dadmin or demo administrator. As a matter of fact, if I were to log in as demo legal, you will see that you no longer see the architecture folder. You just see company shared and legal and a couple other folders. So some folders disappear. That is because each user is assigned specific folders. I'm going to go back and log in as dadmin again because that's the one I've been using here for the demo. Okay. Now, and the same goes for data on the back end. So let's go back to that boys example again. I thought I moved it back. Oh, I didn't move it back. I'm going to move it back over here under legal again. Move it. There we go. And now I'm going to change boys working I'm going to change the title to boys working in Delhi, which is where I took this photo. Now, if I were to go back to the cloud over here and I did a search, I'm going to go to the main folder. And if I do a search for Delhi, you'll see that that photo is now there listed as boys working in Delhi. Okay. So that's essentially what PlusWeb is. So you have DBGallery running on servers and on clients where you actually have the desktop application running. And then the plus part of it, or PlusWeb, is where you're sharing those images across the web. Okay. Now, with that said, I am going to move along to what is PlusWeb and how it's used. I'm not going to be going back to the back end or the desktop application so much anymore. What I want to do is I want to go through specifics of that application. And before I actually go through items such as creating folders, tagging, and sharing with inside of PlusWeb, I just want to mention that there are usage or installation options where many of our clients just simply purchase DBGallery's PlusWeb as a separate package and install it on your own servers and computers. Okay? So everything is still in-house, all their software. Or the other option is that we can take that off your hands, and we can host everything in the cloud. So when you log in, you're actually using remote desktop, which is what I'm doing here, and I'm logging into a cloud server, and then we run the web server and so forth. Okay, so those are two options that you have for utilizing DBGallery and PlusWeb. Okay. Now with that said, I'm going to go through the capabilities of PlusWeb using strictly the browser. We have been moving more and more functionality away from the desktop application and making PlusWeb itself via the browser more and more powerful. And we're bringing more and more features into the web. So our hope is that within 6 months to a year, you will be able to do everything using just the web browser. Okay? And you should get a sense of that as I go through these features now over the next 20 minutes or so. Okay? So once again, here we have our PlusWeb. Okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just create a folder, and we're going to call it flowers. I'm just going to use some flower samples here, probably not very generic at least. Okay, so once we've created that folder, then I can upload images by pressing the upload button here. Okay. And I want to add files. Okay, so I'm going to a flowers folder here. It can be any folder on your drive, my pictures folder, whatever the case might be. Okay, so I'm just going to pick this one and press open. And it's going to upload those images. Well, it's not doing it quickly. It typically would do it much faster on our very fast internet connection here. But just give it 1 minute here, and I'll. What you'll see here is we have an automatically recognize objects in the images checkbox. So optionally, you can have those images automatically pick up objects in here in there. So our object recognition in this case picked up plant, blossom, flower, orchid, and geranium. I think correct as far as my botanical knowledge goes. And you'll see in the next image as well that it also picked up iris, which again I believe is true in this case. Okay? And so that is quite nice. So you can automatically tag common objects. If you have industry-specific objects, it's likely not going to recognize them without very specific custom training. But as a part of the upload as well, if it has GPS information, and many cameras and cell phones these days, of course, will automatically do a GPS stamp, we will show where that image was taken across a map. And also, we will automatically add street, city, and province or state, as well as the country. Okay? And you can see down here, this one here also has the address information. What's nice about that is that when images are added, in this case here, we can search for flowers, or we can also search automatically, just without any tagging, search for various other information or address information. Okay, so in this case here now, oops, I'm just going to close this dialog. So here now, I can just do a search for iris, and you'll see I get just the iris. Or if I want to search for the photo that was taken in Ontario, or the province of Ontario, oops, you should see that one. Oh no, okay. In this demo section, we actually don't search. We didn't search on address information. Typically, we would search for on address information, but we actually turned that off in this specific case. Okay, my apologies for that. But the information is there. We just don't have it included in the index on this specific demo. That is all. Okay, so going back to our agenda here, what was next? Right, tagging. So once your images are uploaded, then you may want to add specific tags to those images. So in this case here, I'm going to open it up. I am going to choose edit, and I'm just simply going to choose author as Glenn Rogers, and subject is already botanical, and I might just add an extra keyword here that says webinar, and then I will press save. Okay. And now if I were to close this, of course, and do a search for webinar, or if anyone else that you were sharing these images with across the web were to key in webinar, then of course they would see just that tag. I mean images that are tagged with that. Okay, that's how simple tagging works. Now, some folks, some more advanced users, rather than seeing just this little bit of information here, which is fairly typical for a photo, we do also have full data view here. This is a bit complex. Be prepared for a lot of information, because this is all the metadata that we have for that image. Okay. So here you can see we have all the file details, we have all the EXIF information, any other metadata that we might have is all included here. Okay. Now, if we were to move to the next image, you'll see it just switches to that image's metadata. And it is rather nice for someone who actually does want to see all the information, because it does show the map, it shows our recognized objects here, and so forth. Okay. Many will not use this, but for those that do, it can be very useful. Okay. Now, moving along on our agenda here. Okay, we've covered object recognition actually, and as I was saying, when you upload images, you can automatically recognize objects. But another way to recognize objects as well actually is if you were to select any number of images, and I'm actually just going to go to another folder here. I can select, say, these three, and I can press this button here, and that will also start object recognition. Or if I double click and open up an image, under full data here, you can also do recognize objects here, if you have not already done so. Okay. And after that, reverse geocoding, we also cover it, and that simply is, reverse geocoding is where it automatically tags images with address information, if it has GPS info. Okay. Full data view we covered as well. Okay. Our thumbs bar is actually very useful. Okay, so when you are in preview mode here, if you open up the thumbs bar, you'll see that all images that are currently shown also appear along here. Okay? And you may select these as you wish. Okay? And of course, you can hide this as well. And next, so far you've created a folder, we've uploaded images, we've viewed the images, and we tag them. And so we don't do that just for the sake of ourselves. We're doing that as a part of collection management to provide it to other folks. So let's say you work in a marketing department and you are sharing this image collection with salespeople. So everything that you do in here, any user that has a sales login would be able to see whichever folders you had provided them access to. Okay. Now, so in many cases, clients will just simply, a marketing department may simply share all folders, all images with sales. Or in my earlier example, as I mentioned, sales folks from specific continents have access to specific continents' content. So that would be folders that would typically be set up for, say, North America, Europe, and Asia. Okay. Now, what those sales folks are often going to do, and this is what you may do for users that simply do not want to log in to get access to these images, you may select any number of images. I've selected 5 in this case, and there is a Share Images button here. That Share Images is going to allow you to take this link, this secure link, and it's secure because it is such a long, convoluted link that for anybody to guess it would be very difficult. And other established organizations, Google and so forth, they also use a similar mechanism for sharing images because it's practically impossible, not impossible, but very difficult to go about guessing such a string. Okay. Now I'm going to open up Edge here, and so let's just say this is a client, or it's a salesperson that opens up their browser. And clicks on that link because because you've emailed it to them or whatever the case might be. What they are going to see is the 5 images that you shared to them, looking just like this. So when they come in, they're going to see a list of thumbs or a list of images that you shared with them. If they wish to see the data for those images, they can press the details here. So you can share titles or descriptions or any other information that you want to share with them right through the details here. So this is essentially the same information that you saw during our tagging exercise just a few minutes ago. Okay, so of course we can hide these details as well. And we can just press the next button and move back and forth with inside of these images here. Okay, so the sharing is very important, and it's our second most used way to get images to other folks. Again, as I said, you're going to upload them, likely tag the images, get them ready for your sales staff so that when they log in, it's ready there for them, or you or the sales staff or anyone else in the organization can also share them by this means here as well. Of course, the sharing button is significantly simpler because there's no login, there's no folders involved. You want to share a very specific set of images to a person or a group of people. You simply copy that link, and whenever that link is dropped into any browser or clicked on via an email, you simply get those images. Okay, so moving along then. I'm looking at our Q&A. I don't see any questions from anyone just yet. Okay. One thing I'm going to point out here next is that the maps view. So while this is the thumbs view for our images, there is also, I'm just going to get this out of the way for a minute, there's also a map view. So this is our default gallery view, what you're seeing right here. Okay. Our map view simply shows images that have GPS information across a map. Okay. Now, they can be shown as little thumbnails, or they can also be shown as the more typical Google Maps markers. And what we're doing here is essentially integrating with Google Maps. If you were to click on one of these images, you can see them. Okay. Now, this isn't useful for a lot of clients, but you'd be surprised how many of our clients do actually use this feature so that they can zoom in on a specific state or country and see those images there. In some cases, so here we actually have images in China, and you can see which images were taken here. So if you are a part of a sports agency, for example, and you want to see the best images for biking in China, you would be able to just do that right through here. So, and you may also use a search in here. So if you want to do a search just for China images, or if you want to do a search just for Canada images, right? You will see them shown up this way here. So you don't necessarily have to do a search and see them this way. You can do a search and see them through the map as well. Okay, so, oh, hang on now, I'm going to clear this filter here. Here we go. Let's do this again. I'm going to just do a search for Canada and just do a click on the map, and there they are. Okay, so with that said, let's move along our agenda here Okay, right. I wanted to mention for existing users, we used to have 2 additional views. That was a timeline and a 3D view. They were right next to these views here. We've since removed them. They were not used almost at all by our clients. It's something that we put into the product, and it turns out that it didn't have much adoption. So we just removed it to declutter the interface and get it out of the way. Okay. So next, I want to. So now that we've covered many aspects of PlusWeb, and much of that has actually been added over the past year. Okay. It used to be a much simpler interface. There was no object recognition. There was no reverse geocoding. Our viewer was not as nice. There was no full data view. There was no thumbs bar and such. Okay. So now I'm going to move along to some additional items in here. This one would be advanced searches. Okay. So if we were to do a search for China, for example, here, you'll see that in this case, this is, let's take a look how we can differentiate this. So this one here was taken in with a bridge. So this one here has no bridge. So what I can do is I want to do a search for images in China that have a bridge. So I can do plus China, plus bridge, and you'll see just the image with the bridges. Now what I could also do is I can do a search for images in China that have no bridge. And there it is. Now, this is a very simple example, of course, that I'm going through here. But in many cases, clients are using this slightly advanced search because they want to exclude a city, or they want to see a very specific client's construction site, or so forth. So being able to narrow down rather than just a simple single word search, and being able to include or exclude specific attributes is something that comes in handy quite often. Okay. We've already looked at images across a map, editing data and sharing. Okay. Viewing tips. It is actually, DBGallery really, PlusWeb and DBGallery really have a very nice viewer here. So if we were to go, if we go into preview, one thing I like to do is to clear things up. So if you press F11 in just about any browser, you're going to go into full screen mode. And we can then see just what we're looking for. We just want to see our images here without any of the clutter that you might have. Okay. So from here, you can also even hide your thumbnails. And so now you're seeing just the images. So it's being decluttered. If you're very interested in all that data that I was showing you earlier, again, you can, be in a more full screen mode and see just your data, so you can see more of it at one time. Okay. Of course, I really like the thumbs view as well while you're in here. So this way you can scroll back and forth and find any specific images that you're looking for. Okay. And as well as that, you can also even in the thumbs list here, there is a hide controls up here, and this hide controls hides all of that. So if all you want to be seeing is looking through your thumbs here, you could do that as well without having a lot of clutter. So just using the show and hide controls and the F11 here, DBGallery can become a much cleaner interface. So moving back, I'm actually just looking for questions. No, still no questions. Okay, great. I wanted to point out here as well that PlusWeb does actually work very nice on mobile devices, even smartphones. Some of the buttons on smartphones can be a little small, but DBGallery is quite usable on mobile devices as well. So if you're sharing images or with folks on a mobile via that link that we had seen earlier, they will be able to view them very easily on a mobile device, whether it's an iPad or an iPhone or a Samsung phone. And even if you're in marketing and a salesperson logs in, again, they can do so on mobile devices. Okay. Now, moving right along here, I want to show that I want to do a quick run through of user management and folder permissions within inside of DBGallery. I won't go through it all, but I will give a quick overview just to show how it works and the fact that you can do it. Okay. So going back to here, I actually have to log out as dadmin because dadmin does not allow user management. So I'm going to log in as superadmin, and superadmin is going to give me additional options. Okay, so here I can take a look at roles and users. So a role would be something like sales. So sales folks, you would attach permissions to a role, not an actual user. So what you would do is that you would create a marketing role, and then you can create. Go back. You may create a sales role, and with inside of that sales role, you would create how many users can access what you set up for that role. So here you may see a list of roles. Here's dadmin is simply a role. Okay? And with inside of there, then there are a list of users. Okay? And those users are assigned a specific role. And you can see the roles listed down the page here. So D-architecture, legal, admin. Okay? So if you want to add a new user, you simply go in here and add. You choose a username, password, and such, and then choose which roles they're assigned to. And then once you have that set up, you will go to a folder, any specific folder here at all. In this case, I'm just going to go to dadmin, and I'm going to go to the lock icon here. And I can say from there, what are the permissions for this specific folder? So I can say that in this case here, I'm going to look for, let's say, just D legal. And here you can see legal as active for, and they can upload, they can preview, they can download and share images. But of course, any of these can be turned off as well. So if you don't want your users to be able to upload images or to download images, or even to preview images for that matter, you can turn that off on a folder-to-folder basis per role. So I'm going to go to a more another specific example here. So if we were looking at architecture inside of here, you will see that legal does not have access to any of that. See, it is turned off. But architecture does indeed have access to it. And it would be the opposite with legal, where in this case, architecture does not have access to it, but legal does. Right? But in summary, we have roles that are assigned permissions to folders and what you can do with inside of that folder. Right? Now, if you choose a root folder, you can say that this user is not able to upload anywhere or not able to download from anywhere. Okay, okay. Moving along here, other usages for permissions is you can give each user their very own upload folder. In the example that I mentioned earlier with the moving company that shipped the very high value crates from China to Mexico, what those users for a specific client would log in, and they would log into a specific upload folder, and they would upload those images of the crates to that folder. Someone back in the California head office would go into that folder, and they would just simply do a quick check to verify that they were valid images, that they were okay for client viewing, and they may tag those images as well. And then they would move those images from one folder to another folder that the client could see himself. So the photographers doing the shipping could upload to a specific individual folder, and then the administrators would move that around to in some cases, a newspaper case where they actually wanted news to be practically real time, and what they were doing is they were uploading images to a folder that was publicly available that everybody could see at one time. So rather than simply having each user being able to have their own folder that they would upload to, and then an administrator would potentially do something with those folders, or of course those users could continue to own that folder and do what they wish with it. You can actually also, when images are added, that they are instantly available to all users. And our next item here is video streaming and processing. So while we've been using only photos in our example here, DBGallery actually does also support PDFs and videos. As a matter of fact, a surprising number of our clients use videos instead of photos or along with photos. We have some clients that are either strictly or the vast majority of the images that they have in here are videos. And some have videos and photos. It might be videos of their products, might be videos of maintenance procedures. It might be a PDF of price lists, or again, maintenance procedures. But you may, in our upload dialog that we showed you earlier, when you're here, you may add photos, videos, or PDFs. And in this case here, this is a Barcelona tourism video that was uploaded. And you may simply click on open, and it will play that video. Okay. And one nice thing about DBGallery is actually its performance for video is really quite good. So as you saw just then, that video played almost instantly. And we have been actually working and improving our video processing and playback quite a bit over the last year. And we feel that video support is just about where we want it to be right now. So photos and videos and PDFs are very well supported on PlusWeb. Some things that, so moving along away from some of our other usages, some things that we're actually looking at doing in PlusWeb that over the next 2 to 6 months includes being able to edit multiple images at once. On PlusWeb right now, unfortunately, you can edit only one image at a time. We're looking at adding being able to edit multiple images at once. And we're also looking at being able to do file and folder movements inside of the web. Right now, there's no way to say, take this image and drag it to another folder, but that is coming up. If you want to take this entire folder and drag it up to somewhere else, that will also be coming up. Currently, you can only do that back in the back end over here, where you might say, take a folder or an image and drag and drop it to another folder. But that functionality is also coming to PlusWeb. So with the addition, I'm in the wrong place here. With the addition of editing multiple images and file and folder movements, there's actually becoming very little reason why you would actually necessarily need to use the back end here. And collection administrators will very soon be able to stick to practically just our web browser version, which is simpler, cleaner, and more modern. Okay. Another item that we're adding, which we're all excited about, is user auditing. So you're a collection administrator, and you want to know which, what your users are doing with what images. So, so I'll just run through an example of that. Again, I'm going to log in. I'm going to log in as super admin because the demo admin does not have access to that. So here you can see that there's an audit button. Click that and you can see what's been happening here in the last little while. You see that I had shared 5 images earlier. And I had also done some editing where I had added webinar as a tag. And here you can see I had done object recognition on this image, and I had added this image. And I had actually these are the 2 images that I had added earlier. These right here. So you see an audit log for when it was added, and the fact that we had done data or object recognition on that image. So that is something that many clients of ours have been wanting to see for quite some time, and we're really excited to be making that available sometime in October. So that allows you as a collection administrator to understand what other users are doing within the system. I see a question that asks, could users use PlusWeb on Macs as well? And that answer is absolutely. Whether you're using Chrome or Edge or Safari or browsers on a mobile device, PlusWeb supports all of those. Okay? So there's no reason why you cannot run PlusWeb on a Mac. Thank you for that question. And the last item I wanted to mention here is from beta functionality is that we are soon going to start offering, hopefully within 6 months, a completely standalone version of PlusWeb. So there's no desktop required. You would be able to simply log in to PlusWeb. You would actually be able to sign up to PlusWeb, log into PlusWeb, and manage your entire collection all through the browser. And so that actually simplifies things and brings a much more modern interface to your collection management. So that is pretty well all I wanted to cover. It's been a lot of information. I know it's been a lot of information. This session has been recorded, and I will be sending out a link to all participants sometime, I believe later today or tomorrow, so that you can browse through it. If there's some sections that you thought were interesting or less interesting, and you might want to just do a review of it, of some of those. So I'm just going to pause for a minute and give folks a chance to type in a question. Again, there is a Q&A option right within inside of the tool that you're using to view the webinar, where you can ask questions. And along with questions, I would really like to hear from folks that are that have joined today, what improvements would you like to see? Or when you came online to view this webinar, there's likely things that you were hoping that you were going to see that we didn't cover, that the product doesn't have. We would really like to hear what they are. And you may send those comments to support@dbgallery.com or send them directly to me at grogers@dbgallery.com. Would very much to love to hear from you as to what the product may be missing. What is it that you think would be a great improvement? If if you think about how you're going to manage your collection, are there some functionality? I mean, is there some functionality here that we went through that could use some tweaks that would make your life and your image collection management easier? Or were there any big features, any big areas that you would like to see added to DB Gallery? Would very much love to hear from you. I am looking back at our Q&A, and we don't seem to have any folks asking questions. Okay, I guess I must have perhaps I had answered all of them through all the detail that I went through during this webinar. So maybe that's a good thing. And I see that I think from the list of original attendees, we only lost one person, so everyone is still on the call. And again, no questions. So that being the case, I will wrap it up by saying thank you very much for joining this webinar.